Keep playing.
Welcome back to another episode of Eagles Weekly. Here are your hosts, Brett, Haas, Mac, and Jack. How we feeling, fellas?
All right, we are live. Welcome back to Eagles Weekly, Episode 6. I'm one of your hosts, Brett Ryder, joined today by international marketing guru Mac Hutchinson of BC Football Fans, and the hype man himself, Andrew Haas. Unfortunately, no ACC athlete, Jack, tonight. But boys, how we doing?
Doing great, man. Great game. Excited about this top 25 matchup. I mean, doesn't get better than this.
First time ranked in 6 years. Feeling pretty solid right now. Absolutely.
Mookie Betts was on the Red Sox the last time we were ranked, so makes you think.
Mookie shout out. I love it, dude.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been a few, right? It's been a while.
Yeah.
AJ Dillon and I don't think Zay Flowers is on the team yet, but it has been a minute. You know, I guess kind of before we go over the Duquesne game, what are you guys' thoughts on being ranked? What kind of comes across for you guys?
Initial thoughts for being ranked. I mean, it's awesome for the national awareness, for the BC brand. I think the biggest thing for me, and we can talk about this a little further into the podcast, but recruiting. I mean, Bill O'Brien even mentioned it today when we were talking about it. He was like, yeah, 24, whatever, we're on to Mizzou. But at the same time, he did mention, this significantly helps the recruiting thing and getting, I mean, everyone was watching that Monday night when we beat, FSU on the road. So I think that with the national brand and Tommy talking about, hey, this is Boston College and, I got to go class tomorrow. I mean, and then to be ranked the following week after a blowout game. I mean, I think just the BC brand's never been stronger. And I think that's the biggest takeaway.
I think for me, right, like we're borderline ranked, right? 24, to be honest. So it's not, we're ranked. First and foremost, I should say that. But at the same time, it's also like we just got in and, a couple teams lost in the top 25 last week, where that's probably the reason why we snuck in. So I think the confidence of this team right now is at an all-time high. I think it's great that the ranking is there to show. I think that's going to be great in their minds and for their confidence level. And I think it brings more notoriety and more publicity to the game this weekend. That's ultimately what it is to me. I'm not trying to get too far deep into the ranking piece at this point, just because it is so borderline. But it is massive for the program, no doubt.
Sure,
it's massive, and it definitely feels nice. It's a nice little prize for this early in the season, especially with the wins that they've got. Obviously the Florida State win was a nice win, and then to actually kick the crap out of a FCS team, which we haven't done in a while. So I think that for me, it's like a little bit of validation on that, kind of like what I'm feeling about this team, about this program, where they're headed. So it definitely feels nice. My thing is like, this can't be it. Like, it can't be like we're ranked, let's kick our feet up and,
Totally.
I want them to really keep digging and keep working hard and, make that number smaller over time. I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. How do you keep the fire? How do you keep the fire in the belly? Right. Like and that's ultimately what Bill is going to, have to do. That's his job. So it'll be interesting how that all works out.
Yeah, just like you said, Brett. I mean, even today in the press conference, Bill said the same thing that you were talking about, and also the players. I mean, again, getting the players to buy into this idea. Hey, it doesn't matter what we're ranked now, but week 12, that's what we care about. Are we improving every single day, every single week, and where are we going to be towards the end of the year? That's their goal. That's their mentality. So again, it's great. 24, great for the brand, great for recruiting, but day to day and out for making this team better, that's their focus. So
totally. I mean, with this Duquesne game, right? If just jumping into it, this is what we thought they should have done, and they did it, right? So I think that's the moral of the story for me. I think this was a game, right, where starters played the first half. Second string came in and got some valuable reps, live action, which is always huge this early in the season. I mean, that's massive. You can't overlook that. But yeah, they handled their business. They didn't mess around. Maybe a slow start at the beginning with the 3 and out and the shanked punt where you're like, oh, what's going on here? But they quickly got the reins back, and by halftime, right, 42-0. They took care of business.
I think it's impressive too, especially when you talk about the fact that they did get out to that 3 and out start, and then the shanked punt. It could have been a slow, crappy half, and next thing you know, the starters are maybe playing in the third quarter, and then you start to pull away, or maybe they don't. We've seen both of those iterations in the past. So this idea that they were able to kind of rein it in quickly and to really bring themselves up to speed, I think it's just a testament to leadership from the top.
Yeah, leadership strong, and then Haas, like you were saying. We talked about this on episode 5 where we were going into this game like, hey, it would be great to have no concerns. And that would be performing like what an elite team would do. Go into this game, take care of business at home, win in a blowout style. And that's exactly what they did. And really, you come out of this feeling the exact same way you came out of Florida State, where you're like, this team is improving. This team is surprising. And they're on the right path. And nothing deviated from that game because – again, we haven't seen something like that since maybe the Colgate game, since maybe, they even dominated that more than that game. It was just a dominating game that we haven't seen at that level, and to blow them out. I mean, to not let up, any points. I mean, we should have gave up 3 points so that they shanked that field goal. But at the end of the day, defense is flying high,
And a shutout feels really nice, to be honest. The defense, the defense deserves that, right? They played so well down at Florida State, and then, to not really have a hangover from that game on 3 days rest, I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, and you talk about, the execution. I think that was a big theme throughout the first game, throughout week 1, throughout week 2. I mean, the execution. Tommy Castellanos in the red zone, 95% completion percentage, and also 6 touchdowns. I mean, he's just the whole offense and what Bill O'Brien's doing with it has gotten them to just execute at the highest level. The pass efficiency is incredible. And again, I think it just goes in line with Bill O'Brien's philosophy, which is, okay, take your talent, take your roster, put them in positions to succeed. Don't ask them to do anything more than themselves. And to just, do something that they've executed in practice day in, day out. And that's exactly what he does. When they get into the red zone or third down or any of these things, you see all these conversions, all this execution at the highest level. And it's because I think Bill O'Brien and this coaching staff is getting them incredibly prepared and then putting them in that position that they all are confident to do and pull off, which is just, so refreshing to see.
And not to nitpick here against execution, Mac, but thinking about the first series, for some reason, they decided to run the ball. They ran the ball to the outsides and not up the gut, like through the gaps. I didn't understand that. Obviously, they made their adjustments shortly thereafter, but it was like they just ran all over Florida State's front 7, and now they're going to go outside of the tackles to run here in this first possession. I was a little bit baffled by that, but again, nitpicking here, and they made their adjustments and. Again, they got back to what was working for them, which is running between the tackles.
It was quickly corrected too, which is big. I agreed with like the nitpicking, but to kind of give them props as well. It's like they recognized it wasn't working and that wasn't them, and they quickly changed it. Probably the biggest thing for me that I noticed, we were all down on the field before the game, kind of watching them come out and warm up. That was the first time that we've seen a Bill O'Brien team come out of the tunnel for warmups, right? And it looked so much more professional. The way they lined up, the way they were stretching. It was very uniform. It was very tactical. The drills that they were doing, and it was very different than what we've seen in the past. And it really kind of set the tone for that game, right? It's like, it's a FCS team, whatever. you wouldn't have known that it was an FCS team by the way they came out of the tunnel and the way that they were, warming up and getting ready for the game. And I think that that's huge. That's their foundation. It's kind of like that blue collar mentality, and it's like there is definitely like a professional feel to it.
Yeah. You hit again, Brett. I would say what you saw, and again, it was so refreshing for fans to see at Alumni Stadium, the professional operation that Bill O'Brien and his team and his coaches do. You see that at practice every week. It's an NFL practice. I mean, there's the media there's NFL scouts there, but then the team and the coaches and how he delegates and how everything's so organized and so precise to the second. It's just incredible. And then you got to see that as they're coming out. I mean, this is a professional operation. These are all NFL, a lot of them are NFL coaches. They coach at the highest level, and you can see how much that's influenced the players and how their demeanor. Bill O'Brien even talked about this, I think, on another podcast where he was saying, like, I don't want them that close to the sidelines. I don't need them to be a hype. I don't need them to be cheering and hyping the team up. It's like, no, we expect to win. Like we're not coming here as underdogs. We expect to win. This is our mentality. This is what we deserve. We put in that work, again, earn it. And I think that's, just going right into the players from the coaches. And you can see that with their whole body language, how they're out there working out. You could feel that energy out there.
Who do you got for your, obviously there's a lot of people that you could point out for like players of the game, offense, defense. What do you look at? Or who do you look at?
I mean, again, I just have to. I have to shout out Tommy again. I mean, Thomas Castellanos again, 9 for 10, 90%. Completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, 234 yards. This is his team. He only played a half, by the way, 1 half. He only ran once. So it's like this coaching staff was like, "Hey, we don't want you to run. Like, don't run. Like, we're gonna work on your pocket presence, and we're gonna see what you can do." And that was just, again, so amazing to see that he's this growth. We were talking about last podcast on episode 5, just like, hey, is that a worry? Is the passing game a worry? Are we going to see that? And that's exactly Bill O'Brien's it's like he's listening to the Eagles Weekly or something. But it's like, he's doing exactly that we're even questioning at all. And he's like, okay, Tommy, you're going to pass it. And that's all you're going to do this game. And you only had to do play half a game. 2 quarters, 4 touchdowns. Yeah. The efficiency, the quarterback rating is just, we haven't seen this level of execution.
And we saw a little bit of that arm strength too, right? Taking the top off to who did he throw that to Reed, the second score of the game, right?
Right, he sure did.
There was a couple throws where he dropped it in. There was a couple throws where he got some air under it. I mean, his arm looked solid. And again, 9 for 10. I mean, that's something to be said.
His touchdowns too. He had a 72 yard touchdown, a 49-yard touchdown, and a 30-yard touchdown. Then he had a 4-yard touchdown to Morales. But yeah, I mean, 3 out of his 4 touchdowns were all big chunk plays. And granted, I get it. Yeah. I get who they were going against. I get who, the type of players. That's still impressive. When you're talking about a guy really kind of showcasing his arm a little bit.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I mean, shout out to the people that came to the game on Saturday. It was a pretty full crowd. That place filled in well. Between the 72-yard bomb, I guess, to Reed and then the pick 6, I mean, Alumni was rocking. There were some big plays there in the first half that before, people started to filter out due to the score, that got that place jumping. It sounded great.
Yeah, I was there wicked early, and just like the tailgate. And again, as I'm driving in, actually, I was worried because we thought it'd maybe take a couple games to get the gold out going, Haas and Brett. But I mean, driving right in, gold everywhere. The fans have bought in. The players have bought in. I mean, it was just great to see the tailgate being so energized and everyone wearing gold. And then again, student section, 60,000 students. I think it's like that's over 60% of the undergrad showed up to that game. I mean, that's
6,000, you mean, right?
incredible.
6,000.
Yeah, 6,000. Yeah, 6,000 students in the student section, and again, I think it was over 39,000 fans. So over 90% capacity around there for the alumni stadium. It was just great to see against an FCS team, by the way. So the fans are back. It was a sight to see.
Picture of the crowd from like the corner, one of the corners of the end zone, and I believe it was like right around halftime, maybe right at the beginning of the second half. But the picture that I took and that I posted it, like if you looked at that picture sight unseen, you'd probably think that we were playing Clemson or Florida State or one of the big teams. That was as close to a full house as you're gonna get. I mean, it's against Duquesne, and I think the final numbers was a little bit over 38,000. Very impressive. People not only were packed in there, to kind of see, but the student section, there probably wasn't a inch of space there. I don't think anyone didn't have a yellow shirt on. That was probably the most impressive part for me.
All I could say is I was just gonna say the 21st is going to be an absolute zoo against Michigan State. It's gonna. And now it's been announced 8 p.m. kick. I mean, it's gonna be wild.
Yeah,
I'm getting chills thinking about that. Right, night game under the lights. Place is gonna be mobbed.
You must just be pumped, man. That's we haven't had that since what, Clemson in 2021 or 22. What was that?
Yeah, 22.
22.
Woo! That's gonna be fun.
When that's the exact game that me and Haas met too. Was before that game.
Nice, guys.
Yeah. I just gotten off a plane from Germany and worked the game that day. I come in and got there for the night.
Did you really?
I was fired up. Yeah. That was a long day.
Yeah. Nice.
It was a great first half. Didn't end well, but it was a great first half. And then that game was cold too.
Yeah, that was a good game.
That was also the game when our kicker missed the field goal, and then poor Haas had to go out there and do the field goal challenge, and some drunk student nailed the field goal.
Yeah,
so that didn't look great.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, you did pretty good though this weekend, Haas. How was just being back out there with the students and tossing the t-shirts? It looked like a blast out there. It looked like it was just good to be back.
I appreciate you asking. It's first game of the season is always a little bit nerve-wracking, right? Because it's first time back out there, shaking off a little rust since last November in this particular capacity. But I mean, the same students are there, right? I was talking to some students before the game and and during the game, and they're giving me a hard time, asking for t-shirts and hot dogs and all that sort of stuff. But I try to talk to them. I try to understand, like, what year are you? Are you coming back? You excited? And a lot of seniors were in the first row. A lot of first-year students were in the first row behind the end zone, which I'm always thrilled to see. Right? They bring that energy, they bring that excitement, that enthusiasm to get there super early and be there first. So, to see students from all 4 years, especially in the front row, which are ones that I'm kind of talking to most during the game, it was great. And I think the energy is contagious right now around this team.
I did see you really stretch out a throw too on the t-shirt toss. There was
I had to loosen it up. I had to loosen this thing.
There was a lot of air under that, pal.
Oh, the pitching arm toss was good.
It was a good throw.
I'm trying to go second. I'm trying to go second deck by midseason.
Yeah, that's a good
man.
goal.
I think you can do it. If anyone can do it, it's you. Plus, what's up with the t-shirt gun? By the way, I think it's like a fucking Gatling gun. It was it's a sight to behold. That thing sends out
shit. Love that thing. Wasn't that the same? That was the same gun that like Jason Tatum was like shooting that one.
Yeah. We've had that for a few years now. That thing is, it's a beast.
Is it ever, man? That
so
thing
great.
That thing just pumps. It got like smoke coming out of it. I'm like, that's
they say over 100 t-shirts per minute that thing can toss.
They might be underselling it, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe. I think so too.
But no, the environment there was top notch. There was something different about it. back to, I try to kind of compare it to the Holy Cross game last year, because it is comparable in the sense that, type of opponent, early season. That wasn't the season opener, but that was week 2, I think. So it was right after the NIU game. But it's funny, man, because like you look at last year and the crowd was very similar in size, but it's because the Holy Cross fans traveled very well. This year it was BC people. It was people there, even if they weren't BC fans yet, it was people there. They were coming to see BC, and it was just so impressive. And I think, to take care of business. The one play that sticks out to me that really showed that like BC's an FBS team and Duquesne's an FCS team was the Lewis Bond touchdown, where like Lewis Bond catches it and the poor guy just like falls off him in the end zone. Like Lewis Bond's like a grown man playing with children out there catching that ball for the touchdown. But that's how it went. Like, and that's how it should be. Like, you should take care of business against scheduled cupcakes like this. Like, you're funding their athletic department by paying them to come in here and get the crap kicked out of them. You better kick the crap out of them. These are the stat patter games. These are the Tommy getting 4 touchdowns in a half type of games that you want. Like this, and this sets the tone. And now here you are, now you have the Missouri game coming up.
And it was a good coming out party for some of the young freshmen too, right? So you had Harris Reed, your guy, Brett, buy stock now, and then of course
72-yarder.
Oh, 72-yarder, incredible. But my biggest, person on offense, which I forgot to mention, Turbo Richard. It's like every time he touched the ball, and he's such an incredible talent. Every time he touched the ball, he was getting like 10, 15 yards, especially towards the end when they had him in there with a second, third team. I mean, this guy, turbo time, that's going to be the term in the next couple of years. I think he's going to be a huge factor in this offense, even the rest of the season. And just an incredible talent. I think the way he moves, through the line and downfield, but able to be, go to the outside as well. I mean, this kid, I mean, I'm excited about him.
And that name too, right? Like he was destined to be a running back, a Division I
turbo
running back.
Come on.
Yeah. Either that or a race car driver, right? I think those are the two that but yeah, that's so sick. So, just thinking about this game and moving forward, right? Because obviously a massive tilt this weekend, and boy, am I going to be sitting on my couch getting every second of this game in. Right. Is there anything to you guys that you are nervous about or a little leery about with this team? Are there any weaknesses that may go on display? Because when you play a top 10 team on the road, like we're going to play this weekend, like all your cracks will be exposed if there are any. So
absolutely.
Are there
right.
any? Is there anything that's concerning to you when you take a look at this team after 2 games and what you've seen?
I don't know if there's necessarily like a glaring concern that worries me. I think it's more so just like this is a measuring stick game. Like, how are you going to measure up? Like, will you measure up? Like, Mizzou's played 2 very sorry opponents, but they haven't given up a point yet. Like that. If anything, from the other side, the defense is what really scares me. On top of that, like, can we do what we did against Florida State and just ball control? Ball control. Can the front line actually move it so that we can just run the ball? Because I think that's going to be the key to our game, is just run the damn ball, right? Like, we have to run the ball, we have to control the clock, and we have to really keep our defense off the field as much as possible.
Yeah, I would say, Haas, it kind of 2 parts, where the only concern coming out of Duquesne, not looking ahead yet, would be like the punting unit. I think Kendati had another shank. So, and I'm going to talk about a little bit more of that with the practice notes later in the pod. But again, that was a concern. But as far as, everything else from Duquesne, we're looking completely solid. Now, looking ahead to Mizzou, yeah, I mean, something has to give, right? I mean, BC's defense has been pretty dominant. They've only given up 1 touchdown in 8 quarters of football, but look ahead at Mizzou. I mean, Mizzou, again, 8 quarters of football, 0 touchdowns. I mean, what's going to give there? You have to look at the offenses, and both offenses have, talent in wide receiver. I mean, again, we'll go a little bit further in the preview of Mizzou, but I think something has to give there, and I just we'll have to see. But yeah. Brett, should we just roll into the practice notes? Do you think here before ad break?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, my friend. All right, so I will start with I know Haas, you like my weekly quote here. So
I love it.
Okay, I was at practice today, and again, vibes great, but I think it's like every week they get even more focused. Like it was like psycho level focus today. I mean, Bill O'Brien was locked in, like almost to like a intimidating level where I was like, stay away from him. Like, do not even like get in his eyesight. Like he was so focused, and the team followed suit. So I was just talking about, we talked briefly about the execution and especially in the red zone. So that was my question to Bill O'Brien, and I'll play for you guys. It's 50 seconds.
Efficiency, Tommy Castellanos, 95% completion, and in the red zone, 6 touchdowns. How do you make sure that you put him in the right position to be successful this weekend?
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? Certainly, no question about it that you want to keep that going, but we're only as good as our last practice and our next practice. You know what I mean? Right. So we've got to. This program's got to really strive for consistency. Got to be able to sustain in every area. So whether it's red area efficiency or third down efficiency, doesn't matter. Overall, we've got to really look to try to really, really focus on trying to get better every single day, every snap, that's really what we're talking about.
So hopefully you guys were able to hear that clearly. So again, I kind of opened the question about kind of the efficiencies in the red zone, but again, his answer was really about, hey, we got to get better every week. And honestly, everything he said, he probably said that quote about 5 different ways in this press conference to like every one of the questions. It was, hey, I talk to my players every day and I talk to my coaches every day, and it's about what are we going to do today to get better? And he said that in a different way. Hey, how are we going to get better? How are we going to improve? How are we going to? That's their mentality, guys. Every single practice, every single second of that practice, they're talking about what can we do to get better. And again, that's the biggest takeaway from today. Again, we talked about how professional this operation is, how these NFL coaches have gotten all these players to buy in. I mean, the same thing with the players. Louis Bond was talking about this. KP Price talked about this after practice as well. They're completely focused on what can I do? Yeah, hey, it's great to be ranked 24. That's, nice and all, but we're completely focused on Mizzou and getting better day after day after day. And that was the biggest takeaway from today at practice, guys. That wasn't only the message, that was how they were practicing, how the whole practice felt. Their body language is just focus, absolutely dialed in to just improving, to the next day.
Taking your question on Tommy in the red zone and just totally flipping on its head and talking about how they're preparing, right? That's really what it is. It's a master class in media. That's what that is. That's a coaching pressers right there.
Yes, sure is.
Yeah, and again, it was just he's such a professional. He's really good with the media and also training not only kids on the field but off the field as well. Like even in media, I mean, I'm pretty sure he told Louis, hey guys, we are focused, we're improving every day, and his team's bought in, and all of his captains. He's talked about this where it's like they act. They lead by example, and they kind of follow that hit the coach, and the coach is a reflection, and the team's a reflection of the coach, and they've just really bought into this take it day by day, do your job mentality that Bill O'Brien's brought to Boston College.
We're starting to see it too. It's really it's not so much like a mantra that's being pushed on them or kind of being told to the outside that that's what's going. Like you're starting to see like tangible results from that whole the Patriot way or Absolutely. Do your job or like that whole mentality. They've bought like it seems to me, and I could be wrong, but it seems to me that the entire team has bought into it, and the entire team is like completely sold on it.
Mhm.
And it's nice to see that they're getting like tangible success out of it as well.
Yeah.
The one last thing I'll just chime in on that is, right, I think we brought this up before in previous episodes, but 12 one-week seasons, right? They are literally preparing. It's a brand new game plan. It's a brand new mindset. You wipe the slate clean, and you have an opportunity to go do it again against a different opponent and re-strategize and refocus yourself. So here comes week 3. Here comes the third 1 week season of the year, right? Another opportunity to go on the road as an absolute dog and go see what you can do. Go see what you can make of it. Go prove some people wrong.
Yeah,
I think too.
No, you're good.
So I think too, like along with that, it's kind of like, yeah, that's great. You were successful week 1 and week 2. What about week 3? You know, it's like that stuff's great and all. Happy you guys got to celebrate, 24 hours of that. It's back to business this week. We got another 1 week, or we got another 1-0 season to accomplish here. Like, I'm not too, he seems like the type of guy that doesn't get too high up on it, doesn't get too low on it. No. It's just focus on the next week. And it's almost like too, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, the Florida State thing happened. We were supposed to do that. The Duquesne thing happened. We were supposed to do that. Now we're focused on what we have to do for Missouri. None of those last 2 games, they have nothing to do with any potential success for week 3. It's week 3. What do we have to do? Like you said, like new game plan, new attack, new everything. What do we have to do to win this game and be successful?
Yeah. And again, to reemphasize what you said, Haas, I mean, the coach, Bill O'Brien talks about that all the time. He's like, we only have 12 opportunities here. And they really use it as, hey, every single practice is a game, and then your Super Bowl after every week is that Saturday. So it's like you're using every game as every practice as your game. So you're performing at the highest level, and it's demanded at the highest level every practice. So I mean, again, he's got the team to buy in here, and Brett, like you were saying, it's an NFL operation, and the philosophy that Bill O'Brien brings in is, every week's different. We're going to have a new game plan. This is, I think a lot of college teams, they have this identity and they usually, it's pretty consistent throughout, but Bill O'Brien's very clear. It's like, no, it's almost like we're a new team every week. We're going to go based off who we're playing, and we're going to have a specific game plan, and we're going to go in completely executing that. And so exciting about, what we'll be able to see on Saturday, with this top 25 matchup.
Definitely couldn't agree more with that. And, we'll talk about this in a couple of minutes, but just how cool is it that we actually have a top 25 matchup? I think looking at the schedule before the season started and seeing Mizzou on it, this isn't the same Mizzou team that we, faced in 21. Was definitely highly concerned and scared about that, not really sure how we matched up, but the fact that, we do have a number next to our name kind of proves that this is a big matchup. This is a lot. There's going to be a lot of eyes on this game. Outside of BC and Missouri, there's going to be a lot of eyes nationally, and that alone is big for the program.
And big for the conference too, I think, and we could touch upon this later, but 6 out of the top 7 teams are SEC teams, right? And I think it's just that continued narrative about the best conference in the country and right?
Yep.
See what an ACC team can do on the road in an SEC house, right? Like what's possible? Can they do it, right? Can they pull it off? So.
Yeah, and again, like you said, lots of eyes. We're the only game on that Monday night against FSU, and we're the only top 25 matchup on Saturday. So another opportunity, like we're talking about opportunity for this team. I mean, this is Bill said this in the press conference today, where it's like this is the best team that BC's played in probably a couple of years. I mean, this is the best team. This is a huge test, a huge challenge, and again, they're going to have to perform at the highest level to pull it off. But it's exciting. I mean, they have this incredible opportunity to launch themselves into this national discussion. And we don't want to look too ahead, but that's a potential possibility. It's a real possibility. This isn't us like talking about the path last year. This is a real thing, and it's a couple days away.
Yeah,
Doesn't feel like Delulu land anymore. It definitely doesn't feel like out of this realm for the success that we're kind of hoping for. So that I'm like pretty excited about. Because to be honest with you, I mean, I looked at the Missouri game and there was a lot of fear from my side. They're I mean, let's be honest, they're not number 6 by accident. You know what I'm saying? Like they're the number 6 team in the country for a reason. We're gonna kind of get into that in a couple minutes when Skeeter hops on. But just the simple fact that this is a marquee opponent, and it's from the SEC too, and it's down there, it's in their house. This is a golden opportunity to really show that the FSU game wasn't BS, and we can actually have some like validity to the success early in the season, at least from my perspective.
Absolutely. Again, huge opportunity. I've been looking into this team, and I mean, this is I agree with Bill O'Brien. This is the hardest test that I can remember in recent memory for Boston College. I mean, it's an SEC team, and then we're going to be on the road. I mean, yes, they were tested, Florida State and Tallahassee on the road, but an SEC environment, against an SEC top tier opponent. One of the biggest tests. And then for Bill O'Brien, though, to get these players to buy in and to be this confident going into it, you like your chances just because of that and where everyone feels this program is going.
Pull this up. We got Skeeter from Woodswater, Mizzou Pod. He's going to kind of give us a little bit of a, personal side to the Missouri program, which, obviously, we can read all we want, but having someone who's been in the trenches, much like us for BC, is hugely beneficial. Yeah. Skeeter, welcome to the pod. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Brett. Fellas.
Welcome, Skeeter.
Appreciate y'all having me on.
Thank you for hopping on. I appreciate it. The first thing I wanted to kind of ask you about, so the spread's 16.5 right now. Do you think that, like, in your mind, is that a correct assessment, spread wise, or do you think it's a little too high, too low? Like, where do you fall?
Personally, I feel like Vegas is seeing things maybe. I'm not ready to drink the Kool-Aid and get my hopes built up too high. So, as much as I would love, hitting on 17 points and beating y'all, I just don't. I don't know with the way y'all run the ball, quarterback mobility. I don't know a whole lot about your defense. I don't know how much you take out of Florida State. Is DJ really that bad of a quarterback, or was it BC's that good of a defense? So I could see a path where that happens, but if I had to put my money on it, give me BC in the points.
Right. Yeah, Skeeter, thanks for hopping on again. I really would love to get your kind of, I saw coach's press conference today, but he kind of went over the injury list. So what I heard was that Brett Norfleet is probable, the tight end. I wanted to get your insight on that, and then if you just go down the line, I know right guard. I think it's Cameron Johnson is also questionable. Yeah, so I was just wondering if you could give some in-depth review on the injury report.
Well, first off, it starts with our receivers, Luther Burden and Theo Weiss Jr. Theo went off last week, had 13 catches, I think 147 yards. He banged up. It looked like one of his arms or shoulders, but he stayed in there, fought through it. Luther Burden is the most popular name. If you follow along with NFL draft boards or anything, he's projected top 10 pick. Some say the best athlete coming out this year. So he's probable with an illness. Rumor had it he had the stomach bug and had to
Yeah.
spend a lot of time on the porcelain there. So that's why he came out of the game last week. Right guard Cameron Johnson, he was our starter last year, and he started the first game. He didn't play last week. They said he hurt himself in a drill in practice. But Drinkwitz did say in the post game last week that he was probably close enough he could have gone, just didn't see the need to push him. So
Mhm.
unless he's re-aggravated something there, uh, Mitch Walters come in. He started 2 years ago for us at right tackle, I believe, and he got moved to a bench role last year.
Mhm.
And but he filled in last week, and he did okay. Like he's definitely serviceable for the right guard spot. And then as far as Norfleet, not really sure what's going on there. He had one catch in the opener and it looked like he kind of banged up his shoulder. That
Gotcha.
they've really kind of been tight lip on it because SECs went to this thing where we do an injury report now. The
Yeah.
schools have to send in injury report Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but SEC only releases it if it's SEC versus SEC opponent. So
Okay.
we don't really know other, what
Right.
Drinkwitz tells us. But Norfleet is the tight end that a lot of Mizzou fans give hype over. He's young, he's big, he's fast, strong,
Mhm.
athletic. He was a true freshman and played just about every game last year, if not every game. And so missing him, we missed that element of the offense. But Tyler Stevens, I think he's a fifth-year senior. Jordan Harris was a true freshman last year at the Brett Norfleet. He played a lot last week.
Mhm.
Did fine. Just you won't see us utilize the tight end as much in the passing game if it's not Norfleet out there. We haven't in the past.
Gotcha. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for that. Um,
Skeeter, I got one question for you, and then I gotta unfortunately jump off. But thanks for joining us again. Tell me a little bit about the progression of the program over the last 5 years. Right, I think now being a top 10 ranked team, this was a program 5 years ago that looked a lot different. Can you talk to me a little bit about the sentiment amongst the Mizzou community, the alumni base, the fans? Like, yeah, tell me a little bit about the pulse of the community right now and how they've basically gotten through this last stretch here to where they are now.
Okay, so go back 5 years ago, and Barry Odom gets let go. And you had about a 50-50 split from the fan base of it's time for him to go, and then the other half let him stay because the coach before him, Gary Pinkel, took over in the 90s, late 90s, back when you built a program. And with NIL and the transfer portal, people aren't as patient now as they used to be back then, and you see other coaches come in and plug and play. And so uh, the Drinkwitz hire was kind of controversial, not so much because of Eli himself, just there were other names that leaked out, and board of curators that actually runs the university, I think, kind of pressed back against the AD on that initial hire. And so they went back and had to, you know, it is like, here's your here's your next head coach, and they were like, no, we don't really like him. And so then they go back to the drawing board. It's how it came across on social media. Whether or not that's actually
mm,
true or not, who knows? You get all kinds of reports. Then Eli's named the guy, right? And so you have this young, energetic guy come in. And what I loved about him is he talked the talk, as y'all saw in 21 or heard in 21. He talked the talk.
mhm.
And he even referenced that today in his press conference when talking about that 21 game. And so I love the coach that wasn't afraid to get in front of the microphone and say, everything. Here in a second, it might be loud. I've got sirens coming in the background. It sounds like hopefully they're not coming for me, but
Yeah, you're right,
uh,
Scares.
so you know he talked the talk and just kept us at that 500 level. We had a really good win against LSU, or what we thought was a really good win. For his first win at Mizzou in 2020. Come to find out, they fell apart after the national championship run in 2019. Got Coach O fired, so that win wasn't as good as we had thought. And since then, there hadn't really been a marquee win until last year. we gave Georgia all they wanted in 22, and a lot of Georgia fans gave respect to us for that. But you know, earning the respect and earning wins are two different things. And
Right.
so, last year we're projected to finish 6th out of 7th in the SEC East, just above Vanderbilt, and some people even predicted Vanderbilt to finish above us. Uh, and we shot that way overachieved compared to what national media said. Me personally, in our preseason predictions, I predicted 11-1 because I had saw the talent, saw the close results against Georgia. You don't go play Georgia or have Georgia come play you, and it's a one touchdown game going to the fourth quarter by happenstance. You, they're,
Mm.
you're just missing a couple plays here and there, a couple players here and there, and so with the transfer portal, you saw guys jump in that weren't really contributing, other than Lovett that ended up at Georgia. He was our main receiver in 22, jumps in the portal. Well, then we replace him with Theo Weiss out of Oklahoma, and he's only a 5-star, and he brings a level of leadership and a size, and can't say enough for what that guy's done for the program. And so you have this, you see the glimpses and the signs, and you're like, hey, there might be something here. Well, then last year you get the results, and so as I told Brett, on our show Sunday night, it's great, it's fun, you enjoy the number 6 ranking, but you want to see a path of being able to sustain it, not go back to that 500 level. Not even 8 wins a year would not be good enough. When you believe in your program that you can get to that 10 win or every year and compete for an SEC championship. And so the excitement's high,
Yeah.
man, the nervous
Mm.
pressure on the fans. Uh, you're scared. You're scared every week of, man, what if we lose? So many people are going to come at us. The Tennessees, the Arkansas, the South Carolinas, Kentuckies. They're going to come out of the woodworks, and it makes it miserable to be on social media then. But uh, you know, I've been guilty of it. I've went and talked to other fan bases too, so I know I got it coming my way, and that's fine. It's just I don't like those days. So,
Yeah.
but the overall vibes they're sky high. I just bought tickets today to go to the game Saturday.
Oh, good.
If I'd have bought them 2 weeks ago, probably would have been about half of what I paid today for them. So, you know, with y'all coming in and y'all being a top 25 team, and we're the only top 25 matchup in the country on Saturday.
Mm.
There's only one other top 25 matchup the whole weekend, and that's Friday night, Arizona and Kansas State.
Right.
So,
Right.
the fact that College Game Day chose to go to South Carolina, we kind of feel slighted about that.
I
Like
agree.
you're going to feel one loss to LSU and a South Carolina because they beat Kentucky.
The wrong Columbia. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Just for simple fact there too, South Carolina's never beaten Eli Drinkwitz. He even got him his 1 year at App State. So he is 4-0 against South Carolina with his 3 wins at Mizzou and 1 against there. So yeah, they should have come to the real Columbia.
I agree, Skeeter. I was just you mentioned how this is kind of new territory for you guys, and it's interesting where it's last year not having everyone predicting you guys to be at the bottom tier of the SEC East, but this year now everyone predicting you guys and you're ranked almost in the top 5 now. That pressure and everything, it's interesting because it's in a similar way. A lot of BC fans, after starting 2-0 when no one thought we were, it's kind of a similar stance where we're like, okay, well, how do we act, right? And it's kind of like, how does that, how's your fan base reacting to that? Is it like this over critical kind of feeling of like the team, or is it excited? It's a good problem to have, but just curious about that.
Well, I live 5 hours away from the university. I actually live in Arkansas now.
Gotcha.
So I'm not. My interactions with the fan base is through social media, and here comes another EMT or somebody had an accident down the road. But uh, online, uh, kind of got to where we try to bully other fan bases. It seems like, some of them young people that haven't suffered through the long years of 500 or fighting for bowl eligibility. They think they can write checks now, with their mouth just off one season. We know how fragile that is. You flash back our first year in the SEC, and I believe we went 5-7 on the year and missed out on bowl eligibility. Then in 13 and 14, we win the East back to back years and go to the SEC championship. And so we've got this close before,
Mm,
but that was back when it was building teams. You had underclassmen that you knew what was coming next year. And so now with the way Eli's recruiting at levels Mizzou hasn't sustained, and then winning at the rate we did last year and getting in polls like we are now and getting national respect, uh, it's a lot of big talk during the week. That come kickoff, everybody's like they're complaining about the most minute stuff, and it's like, hey, last
Right.
year week 2 we beat Middle Tennessee State by like 6 points.
right.
We're complaining about beating Buffalo 38-0. So, you kind of, I think you lose perspective pretty quick.
Sure.
So you gotta stay grounded in that, and that's what I had to keep telling myself. Like, yeah, we wanted to beat Buffalo 70-0, and there was absolutely the opportunity there. We made mistakes, but it's great you're not playing your best football and you're winning football games 38-0.
True.
With the fact that you guys have played lesser opponents your first 2 weeks, but you haven't given up any points, so that's super impressive. And to go along with that, from my perspective, I think BC's biggest chance in order to be successful in the game this weekend is going to be to run the ball and control the clock, things like that. Do you see any sort of ability for BC to be able to successfully do that, or is Mizzou's front seven, are they just like too hard to run on? Like, what do you see out there?
We rotate a lot defensively, and so it's kind of been hard to get a vibe where our strong point is because we've had so many guys playing. Our linebackers, we're splitting up, probably 50-50 between 4 linebackers.
Right.
And so it's hard to really tell where your strength is. And Buffalo kind of gashed us for some runs. It wasn't big runs, but when you're in SEC school and you're giving up 10-yard runs to Buffalo, that does cause concern. But it was you go back and watch the tape, and the guy on the edge doesn't keep containment, doesn't set the edge, and so that allows the running back to get around. Well, that's coachable mistakes. That's assignment, and so I hope that was just a week 2, playing your bad football at the beginning of the year and getting it out as the year goes on and strengthening. As far as athletes, we're fast, we're strong up front. So should you have the ability to run on us? I would like to say no, because I like to think, we've had it, in our brains now for 12 years. We're SEC, it's different, but then you look across, and LSU lost to USC. Auburn lost to Cal. It happens. It happens.
Right.
Just because you're SEC doesn't mean you're going to come out and just whip everybody. So, and I think as a Mizzou fan, we should remember that very, very real. The ability is there, and that is my biggest concern is BC controlling the clock, just like you did against Florida State with your 39 minutes of offensive possession. That's the best way to keep a high-powered offense from scoring so much is keep them on the sideline, keep their defense out there. So there is the possibility when you give up 114 yards to Buffalo.
Skeeter, I'm curious about kind of on the other side too. You have your kind of duo running back, Nate Noel, Marcus Carroll. Can you just talk a little bit about that? And they have I think it's like 250 yards for the season, 3 touchdowns. Boston College's defense has been, also pretty solid, this year as well, only giving up 1 touchdown. How do you kind of see that going about? And just talk a little bit about that running back duo you got.
Noel comes in from App State, and he's the smaller, quicker, shiftier guy. Marcus Carroll comes in from Georgia Southern, I believe, last year, led the nation in touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, and he's the bigger, harder to take down, lower the pads.
Mm,
Uh, they've been rotating them through series, not so much during the series, but it seems like Noel will start with a couple series, and then Carroll comes in and gets a couple series, and so we're used to like Cody Schrader last year. He just come in, and by the fourth quarter, he had the nickname from the teammates as the Shredder because he wore them down, wore them down, wore them down. And so we're used to having that one back that goes in there and just gets in his groove and eats away at them. And so it's a little bit different this year for us, and it's kind of hard to say what exactly we have.
mhm.
I've been very impressed with the way Marcus Carroll runs the ball. He hits that line with a ton of speed. I've seen him run through some very tight gaps and explode through the line. So I'm excited for him. Noel, I don't know that we've seen his best yet. I think he's still
Gotcha.
learning, and I think offensively we're still learning how to get him into space and utilize the ball. But
Okay.
Yeah.
it's hard because you've got Theo Weiss, Luther Burden, Mookie Cooper. You got all these receivers that are 4 and 5 stars that got to get the ball too, so you can't just turn and hand off every time. One thing I will tell you, running, you got to watch out for Brady Cook's legs. Uh, for a quarterback, he's one of the most underrated runners
Yeah, I
I
was just
feel
gonna
in
ask
the
you about.
country. So
Yeah.
keep an eye out on that.
Yeah, I think that to stay on offense, I think the big question is your number 12 quarterback, starting quarterback Brady Cook. I've listened to a little bit of the chatter, and I think some of your guys' fans were concerned about him not being able to hit the long ball yet, and he's still kind of getting into the offense still this year. But can you just talk about his performance so far and what you expect him going in this game, and just for our fans, just to kind of give a little bit more in depth on Brady Cook.
Week 1, he did miss 3 or 4 deep throws and missed it by a couple yards every time. You like to write that off as game 1
Right.
hype, playing a lesser opponent. And Drinkwitz said in his presser between week 1 and week 2 that, it didn't look like he stuck with his fundamentals. Like he let go of the ball, and instead of following through, he started to do his celebration. He does this cooking celebration. And so he said he needed to focus more on the fundamentals, and after the receiver catches the ball, then celebrate, type thing.
Yeah.
Last week, I felt we went very reserved as an offense. It seemed like every throw was between either a screen at the line of scrimmage or 10 yards. It wasn't a lot of pushing the ball downfield. He did have a couple throws downfield. One of them, I think 2 of them led to pass interference. They were not bad misses or anything like that. Like it was just pass interference. And then another one hit receiver right in the hands in double coverage, and it was a lot better. So I think he's getting settled, but also we kind of did this last year. Week 1 and week 2 were not performances that led you to believe you're going to end up beating Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Playbook seemed to be a little reserved and held back, not wanting to give too much to K-State was our big week 3 matchup last year. And so I am very interested to see offensively the kind of game that Kirby Moore calls. What kind of defensive front should we expect from BC? Are they? I would think them being ACC, they'd probably more of a traditional 4-3 up front.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've been rushing mostly like 75% of the time for the last 2 games. And but yeah, I was gonna mention Kirby Moore, your offensive coordinator. I was wondering about it seems like BC obviously, we both played pretty vanilla, lesser teams last week in week 2. If he was keeping it pretty vanilla, it seemed that Bill O'Brien was keeping his playbook, pretty vanilla going into, he didn't want to give up too much of his playbook going into the Mizzou game. Do you think that was the case for Kirby Moore, and we're not, the reasoning for some of the, offensive game plan, or what's your take on Kirby Moore going into this game? Do you expect him to open up the playbook a little bit more?
Well, first I got to ask, what's your pass rush like? Are your ends getting pressure on the quarterback?
Yeah, so we're getting
pretty consistently
from both of our ends. Yeah, we
Okay.
have 2 pretty solid ends.
I remember you, telling us to watch out for the one guy there. On our show, Brett.
Yep.
I wasn't going to try to repeat his name, but
I don't blame you.
So with it being on tape of them getting pressure, I probably look for more getting the ball out of the hands quicker, trusting our athletes to have the space on the outside and create plays with their athletic ability. Also look for us to counter. Best way to counter a pass rush is run the ball. Defensive end can't pin his ears back and just run after the quarterback. He's got to look for run first. So there's ways to counter that. And so I look for more of an emphasis of running the ball, but do not be surprised to see some shots called downfield. I don't think we're the type of offense that's looking for, 20, 30-yard throws 10 times a game. We probably want to keep it 5 or under. And that's best way to keep your defense fresh too, with you controlling the ball as y'all did against Florida State.
Last question for me. I don't want to keep you too long. Are there, similar to kind of what you asked me on your show, are there any specific players, both sides of the ball, that you think that, BC fans should be aware of, kind of watch out for, key in on?
With me talking about the receivers, another one to keep in mind, Speedy Johnson, number 2. He can fly.
I figured he'd be slow.
If we're going to call shots, it's going to be with him. That's just another one to keep in mind, other than the Theo Weiss or Luther Burden. Mookie Cooper is a solid receiver out there as well. I believe he was a 4-star, transferred from Ohio State, St. Louis kid. Number 5. He's kind of undersized for playing on the outside, but excuse me, when he does get the ball, he seems to be really solid and consistent. So, you mentioned the running backs already. Defensively, with us rotating, the linebackers that stood out the most so far would be Corey Flack Jr., which you all be familiar with, transferred in from Miami, the Hurricanes. Yep. He's number 11 with us. Yep. And then we've got a safety playing out of this world right now. He's a true sophomore. Marvin Burks Jr., number 1. He is laying some haymakers, had an interception last week, just been really, really solid. To see the growth in his game is very exciting. And that only helps recruiting. When you have these young guys come in and they're getting to play as true freshmen and burn their red shirts, and they're playing at the elite level of the SEC, it also adds to that hope, as we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, of for the future, because that's a recruiting tool. You say, look, I go recruit these guys and they're getting to play. They're, it's whoever's earning it. But Marvin Burks is probably him and Corey Flack Jr. at linebacker.
Okay.
Skeeter, it's my last question for you, and I'll let you get back to everything you got to do. I think the big matchup that isn't players is, I think, the coaching matchup. I think Bill O'Brien coming to this against Eli is going to be a good matchup to watch. Just kind of talk about how the last time in 2021 when we played, obviously he got in a little bit of controversy with calling the state of Massachusetts not a Commonwealth and all of that, not kind of nonsense there. Have you seen him in the last 3 years grow as a coach? And as far as that coaching matchup, do you have any little more depth there? And I'll kind of leave it at that.
Yeah. So 21, he when he hired, he was offensive coordinator for the first 2 years. I think I'm getting this right. 2021, 22. So first 3 years he was offensive coordinator and head coach. And the results were not there. It was offense that struggled. 21 defensively, we struggled with Steve Wilkes as defensive coordinator. Glad he's back in the NFL. Great guy, but not made for college. And
Mm.
so, last year he goes out and hires Kirby Moore from Fresno State to come in and be an OC, and that allows Eli to be CEO of the football team, to where he can pay attention to special teams, defense, offense. Uh, and also his dad, he made mention last year a couple times of his dad, Mr. Jerry, uh, kind of telling him, you know, the talking falls a little flat without the results. You're not winning enough to be talking as much as you're talking.
Mm.
And so he's really pulled the reins back in on that. And I felt he's been, Paul Feinbaum said on SEC Media Days, he's like, I'm not even going to ask you back on my show if this is how you're going to be now because you're too toned down. I like the guy that shoots from the hip and says some
Yeah.
hot takes, that go viral, get the views. But I think he's more. Before he was trying to sell the program and a product, and now he feels he's at a level that the results sell themselves, and so he doesn't have to talk as much.
Right. He's got a product now. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the in-game management stuff, he still has some time management issues into halves, uh, getting a field goal unit out there to kick a field goal, or even delay a game on punting. At times, it's not you're trying to back up 5 yards, give your punter more room, just frustrating guys not paying attention to the time clock and letting the time clock wind down. So that's probably the biggest thing on his tenure that has aggravated us. Bill O'Brien, with his experience at the collegiate level and then the NFL level, I feel he's very smart with how he's doing things with BC this year. He's playing to your strengths. And when a coach plays to a team's strengths, you have to go beat that team. They're not going to beat themselves. They're not going to do you any favors and give you possessions and short fields and shoot themselves in the foot.
Mhm.
So when that's something I know come Saturday, we're gonna have to play better. We're gonna have to beat Boston College straight up. We're just not gonna be able to go out there and say, "Hey, we have more NFL guys on our roster right now. We're bigger, stronger, faster than you. So we're gonna put our Mizzou stuff on, and you're gonna bow down to us." I look for y'all to come in and play your style of game, well coached. I would imagine probably not going to see the deep balls like I saw in y'all's game highlights from last Saturday. I look for a little bit more ball control. Uh, and so, if something's there, take it. But, some of those throws, uh, Bond, was that the receiver's name?
Yeah. Lewis
Okay.
Bond. Yeah.
It was great coverage on the FCS guy, but Bond just had body position of, moving him out of the way and then turning last second to the outside shoulder and catching the ball. So it wasn't like it was a spectacular throw or wide open busted coverage. It was receiver making a great play. And I think Bill O'Brien's going to know the difference of an FCS corner and an SEC corner,
Mm.
and probably not allow for those type throws. I look at the stats of Castellanos, or I'm probably butchering his last name, but uh, he threw 14 interceptions last year, and so without going and watching the game tape, he's got a little bit of a gunslinger. You would think from looking at those numbers, and with him being his size, I made a joke on our podcast. He's my size, 5'9", 196 pounds.
Three more toes than you, though.
Yeah. Did you know the story behind that?
No.
Okay, I had an accident in May and ended up losing a third of my right foot. So I have
Oh,
7
wow.
toes.
Dang.
So that's why I say I hope he has 3 more toes than me.
Oh, shoot.
If
Damn.
he's running around
Kill
there
him.
on 7 toes, I feel a lot better about my future. But
Yes.
so I look for Bill O'Brien to see the tape, see the numbers from last year, and say, hey, we can't go into a sold out environment like this and play these or call these type plays. If something's there, take it, but if not, pull the ball down and run, or take what the defense gives you. And so I look for him to be coached up. And when you have that, it makes it where it's that more of an exciting game as a fan, because you're gonna get their best, and you just hope your team doesn't make the mistakes.
Skeeter, I really appreciate you hopping on with us.
Yeah.
Why don't you give the listeners, or let the listeners know where they can find your work at before you hop on?
So we're on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, or Instagram at Mizzou Pod. Our YouTube channel, Woodswater Mizzou, is also the handle at Mizzou Pod. Brett came on. We published it today, our preview episode. After you got off, we kind of talked about our 3 things that we want to see. So if anybody wants to go listen to that, feel free. And I appreciate y'all giving me the time and the opportunity to come on. I always enjoy it. I'm really excited for y'all and to know what you've been going through as a fan base, and to know where we are, and like that's kind of where you're wanting to get to. I don't say that boastfully, like, yeah, we did this, because 1 year doesn't make it a program get to another level. It's a, what's the saying? A 2,000 journey starts with 1 step, or something like that. So you got to take that step, and y'all are definitely doing that. The environment at BC last Saturday for an FCS opponent, that was impressive. As you said, Boston's a big professional, sports team market. So to see the buzz, and you go online, there's BC fans pulling, Drinkwitz comments about the great state of Massachusetts. So the vibes y'all are giving off right now, I'm excited for y'all. Doesn't mean I want y'all to come out 3-0. I will not be happy. If you come on my podcast next week, Sunday night, when we do our recap show, you might get a little bit more language than what you got this past week.
Sponsors be damned, right?
That's it. So, but that's what we love about this game, right? It's the hope. It's the looking into the future, and all we really get out of it is debt.
This is true. This is very true.
This podcast stuff isn't free. Our time isn't free. The clothes, the stuff we wear to support the teams isn't free. And it's not like the teams send us a championship ring or a bowl ring when they win. They only give us a shirt. So all we get is the talking points and the debt out of this. So we're crazy. We're sickos, as you dubbed yourselves, and I love it. Love to know that y'all have that going for you in BC, and I'm excited to watch y'all grow. And I'm glad I'm getting y'all this year, not in the years to come.
Yeah.
Oh man, really appreciate it, Skeeter. Really appreciate all that. Thanks so much.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Skeeter. We'll talk soon too. I'm sure we'll be talking Saturday. Good or bad.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all. MIZ.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
See you.
Oh man, what a great guy, Brett. That was awesome.
I looked through the timeline. I'm not even going to shout the other Mizzou podcast out because I don't really give a fuck about them. Real just loser mentality, kind of just jerks about it all. That real SEC, we're better than you type of deal. And then you get these cats, the Woods, Water, and Mizzou guys on, and we talked about it on their show too. So their trajectory, or should I say their past 10 years, have been very similar to BC, right? Like they call it the purgatory. Right. They were 6-6 every single year, much like we, 7-5, 6-6. to see kind of where that they've launched off from last year into where they are right now. For me personally, that's very encouraging, because it's like you have these two parallel programs. One has already started to take that journey.
Yes.
And we're kind of moving, and that's where we want to go to, right? Like there
Right.
is a blueprint, there is like tangible success that is possible. It's not this like delusional, like Bill O'Brien's going to fix everything and we're going to be amazing. I guess there is a bit of delusion to that, but from my perspective, it's like we've seen that with the Missouri team, with the Missouri program, with Eli Drinkowitz, and like that's something that we can, accomplish as well.
No, exactly. Good coaching and leadership can, transform a program in a single season. And again, like you said, Mizzou's program a year ago was pretty much the same thing, in purgatory, 6-6, and then last year they had this incredible season. They end up going to the Cotton Bowl and beating Ohio State. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, that's what can happen. That's what's so exciting about college football. And I think that excitement you're feeling with this Boston College team, because of Bill O'Brien coming here, and again, the entire team buying into his mentality and his way of thinking, and how he conducts himself. It's exciting for college football, and like what Haas mentioned earlier in the pod. I mean, huge thing for the ACC. I mean, this is a top 25 matchup. ACC versus SEC. Everyone's been talking about the conference alignment and all of these things. There's so many different angles that you could see this game from, whether it's a conference perspective or whatever. But I think what you're saying, Brett, is the right way to look about it, is how inspirational it can be, and exciting it is in college football, where teams can rise. When you get the right leadership, when you get the team to buy in, how much you can lift a program. And we're on that journey right now, and it's exciting.
And to further your point, it's like this is a measuring stick now. This is like a tangible measuring stick. This is if we're going to aspire to be a program like Missouri in the ACC, where are we right now? Where do we match up? Are we right there with them? Are we, can we compete with them? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, this isn't a game where I'm talking like we're going to win this game, or, we're going to get blown out. Like, it's really not, for me, necessarily like those two sides of it, to the extremes. To me, it's more so, where do we fall in line? Are we closer to being able to compete and win, or are we close, or are we a lot farther behind? And is this going to be is Vegas correct on this?
This is, Brett, I would say this is a huge opportunity. We're spilling it out right now, and maybe we can get really deep into it, because this is an opportunity where you're going to be able to see where BC fits in this whole, not just the ACC, but the college football landscape at the highest level. I mean, there's a real opportunity. We said this, that if they go in and win, I mean, they probably shoot up into the top 15 in this country, and people start talking about the college football playoff. I don't know if we're ready to have that conversation yet, but that's a real possibility. And this team has done everything, has taken the two opportunities they've had and executed at the highest level. And now they've created this third opportunity that, if they, again, take advantage of it, we're talking, the ceiling here has just blown off. I mean, everything that we talked about in, episode 1, 2, 3, I mean, that's all, gone out the window, and we're talking about a whole different, lens here. So this is a real possibility. And again, because we don't have Haas on here to calm us down, I mean, there is the other, spectrum of this whole thing where, even if they go, I think the biggest thing for BC fans is that they want to see, again, growth. And at the end of the day, if this is a good, hard-fought game and they battle to the end, I mean, that's at the end of the day what we need to see from them. Because at the end of the day, this isn't an ACC game. So this doesn't affect this race to the ACC championship at all. Boston College is still going to be 1-0 in the ACC.
Right.
No matter what happens on Saturday. So we can take that with a grain of salt as well. But there's so many things, I think, like you said, again, I agree. We're going to be able to place BC a lot better after this game and where this all shakes out. And just super excited.
And once again, man, all eyes are on BC, right? Like, we talked about them being America's team week 1 against Florida State. now they're ranked. Now they're, the only ranked ranked matchup on Saturday going against the number 6 team in their house. BC is right back in it. Like, they're in the conversation again. Like, all eyes are going to be on them. Like, people are going to be looking through, especially if their team's not playing. And more often than not, people are going to choose the Boston College Missouri game over a lot of other games at that 12:45 slot. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on them. That brings it up too. Is it's
a lot
like
of college football fans are going to be watching, especially with that
right.
massive line at 16 and a half, wherever it is.
There's a lot. They've had a lot of exposure up to this point. The exposure is going to keep coming. This is another opportunity to really show that, like, you belong. Like, you're deserving of all that exposure. You're deserving of this talk. You're deserving of these, like, high level pundits speaking about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, we talked about it after Florida State with, like, the Pat McAfee's of the world and how cool that was. Now's your chance to really validate that as to, like, why it makes sense that they did it.
Exactly. You hit it.
Doing it.
Validate this 24 ranking, this national ranking. Is it going to be like the old BC where it's like, hey, you got ranked, but then you fall right back out because,
Happy to
right
be here. Yep.
Exactly. Right when you make it, you do what everyone expects. Or you're going to take advantage and validate, no, we're here. We're here to stay. This program's on the rise. And not only we're a top 25 team, we're here competing, for an ACC championship. I think, again, that's what's on the table on Saturday. And whether that's not the practical, you don't need to win that game for that to be the reason. You need to win that game to send that message across, not only to your team, but to the college football, world, basically.
Before we sign off here, do you have any final thoughts?
I'll say two things. Again, on this idea of, national recognition and the BC brand, Boston College just announced the Red Bandana game in 2 weeks against Michigan State will be at 8 p.m. on the ACC. So ACC network. So that's going to be a national televised game. Again, more eyes on this program. I mean, 3 out of the 4 weeks, national televised games. That's going to be huge. And it's a Red Bandana game. So Wells Crowler, we're going to be talking about that on the next pod, about his story and how much that is a huge impact and a huge thing for this community at Boston College. So huge shout out for the school and for, being able to help raise that story, and then the BC brand as well. I think my biggest takeaway for final thoughts, Brett, is going to be there's 2 teams right now that think they're going to win this game, and 2 fan bases that I think feel like they have a really good shot at win this game. Maybe Mizzou has a little more evidence to that, and they deserve to feel that way a little bit more based on last year. But really, you have 2 teams specifically and 2 coaches that are going to this, and they're completely confident, and their team's completely confident that they're going to win this game. So it's one of these things where I've been watching, our podcast for BC, podcast for Mizzou, and both of these, everyone talking is like, no, we're going to win this game. We're going to win this game. We're completely confident. I think you have 2 very confident, well-coached teams going into this. This is going to be a battle Saturday. I really do think so. I'll post my predictions later in the week when I, publish the article for the preview for Eagles Daily and BC football fans. But I think my biggest prediction out of this is going to be a hard-fought game Saturday. I think it's going to be a fourth quarter game, and you're going to see, hey, at the end of the day, I think it's who's going to execute at the highest level. And I think BC so far, I would actually say, has the advantage on this. They might not have the talent advantage. They might not have the speed or the skill advantage, but they have I think they have the coaching advantage. I really do. I think they have the execution advantage. And while, Bill O'Brien's only been there for a lot less time, he has them on the right trajectory, the right, mode of thinking, the right mentality. And I think for me, that's the biggest thing. And I like their chances going into that game. It's going to be a close one. And again, all eyes on BC Saturday.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't have said that any better. Jumping ahead a little bit, Red Bandana game. It's nice that it is back in that prime slot. Last time it was in the prime slot was 22 against, Clemson. But it really hasn't been given the platform that it's deserved. Besides that, Saturday night game, I know 18 2018, it was a Friday game. 19, it was like a Saturday afternoon game. 2020 was the COVID year. 2021, it was a Friday game against Virginia Tech, I believe.
Yeah.
So they really haven't had like a prime time Saturday night red bandana game. 22, but like outside of that in some time. So this is really a chance, this weekend and the next weekend to really prove to people that like you're competent program that's worthy of the slot. Like, it's right out the gate too. It's like right after another. They keep having these like huge opportunities. They've delivered thus far, but I'm very excited to see if that trend can continue, right? Because like the red bandana game, it deserves that audience. It deserves that platform. They're being given the opportunity to really build that up and to take that over. So that's my final thought. Back-to-back big weeks, and you keep it rolling. You keep it rolling. And you go from there. We're still in September, but there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of good things coming. The 24 rank, obviously, it's just the beginning of it. Let's hope. I hope and pray this is just the start. That's all I got. Episode 6. Wow, episode 6. I love that. Dennis Grisella episode in the books. With that, everyone, thank you for hopping on. Thank you for viewing. Thank you to Skeeter for hopping on, and go Eagles.
Go Eagles, guys. Go Eagles.
Lay low, hiding in the shadows. So don't give me dark days, I already had those. I'm just trying to figure out how to be myself right now. I don't wanna lay low, hiding in the shadows. So I wake up, I get out of bed, stay up, stay out of my head, it's dangerous. And I don't wanna lose my mind.